What is up, everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. And so today's video is super exciting because I'm going to be talking about a topic that I saw recently on Reddit and I've been thinking about recently, which would be hustle culture and why people our age, millennials, Gen Z, why we're losing hobbies and no longer have hobbies that are just for fun. So if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Rachel. I graduated from UC Berkeley in May 2020, where I double majored in cognitive science and legal studies. And now, post-grad, I'm currently working full-time at a law firm. And so definitely thumbs up this video if you like it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I post a lot of college and lifestyle advice and content. So recently I saw an article by the Daily Star, which I'll have linked down below, but the introduction of this article really resonated with me, and I feel like how people my age, my peers, my college mates are feeling now going into the post-grad world. So this article starts by saying recent times have seen a significant rise in this culture of putting work above everything else and putting everything you have into working hard. Known as hustle culture, this lifestyle teaches people that overworking is the only way to earn respect, whether it be from others or yourself. If you are not putting every possible minute of your day into something productive, you do not have what it takes to be successful. If you are not working overtime, are you even working? And so this quote really resonated with me because I feel like throughout high school and college, there are so many students that subscribe to this hustle culture where in high school and college, people would literally brag about how much sleep that they're not getting. So I remember so many times where my fellow peers, they would be talking, telling everyone around them, sort of bragging like I pulled 3 all-nighters this week and sort of putting off the vibes that if you aren't pulling all-nighters, you're not as good as me, like I'm better than you because I am pulling all-nighters. I must be working harder than you because I'm not sleeping. And so thinking back and like hearing those conversations, I'm sort of like, why are people bragging about this? Like with the quotes and with hustle culture, people are putting their value and self-worth on the amount of hours that they're putting into school or their full-time job. And so yeah, thinking back, I'm like, pulling all-nighters doesn't make you better than anyone else or a harder worker than people that aren't putting in that much time to studying. And so there's a difference between this hustle culture and, you know, for certain subjects in school, some subject might come more naturally to you, so you don't need to spend as much time on it versus other students where a subject might be more difficult for them. They have to put in that extra work to understand the material. And so the problem is with that hustle culture, like the quote said, that overworking is the only way to be successful, to be respected. That is where the problem lies. And so when everyone has that mentality, everyone is constantly working, that's where I feel like people are abandoning or losing their hobbies because you don't have free time anymore. People are putting in so much time into work or school because those things are considered productive, and that is how you get a job or make money. So people are seeing hobbies as not worth it anymore because it's not productive. You might not be making any money from it, which then goes into my next point, which I'll talk about after this point. But people, when they have free time that they don't know what to do with themselves, so then they sort of throw themselves into more work or more school, more things that are considered productive or successful. And you know, I have that problem as well. In college, I was working 3 different jobs so that I didn't really have a lot of free time, so that that every single minute of every single day, it was structured time. I knew where I needed to be every single day, whether it was in class, studying, or at one of my jobs. Which also goes hand in hand with people that have to take on numerous jobs because the wage that they're earning at their one job isn't enough to pay the bills. So they have to start taking on more jobs in order to pay the bills, which in turn means you have less free time, and therefore no free time means you don't have time for hobbies, you don't have time for things that you love to do. That isn't work. Versus, say you have free time and you sat and watched Netflix, people sort of look down on that like, oh, why are you wasting your time watching Netflix when you could be out working more? Which is honestly sort of like backwards, you know? I don't know. It's like a weird mentality that people nowadays have towards work, school, and free time. Which then starts to create people with no hobbies whose only identity revolves around work or school. So there's these people who are like bored on the weekends because they're just waiting for the work week to start again so that they have their time structured, they have their time filled. Which is sort of really sad to think about. Like, you have conversations with people and the first thing that gets brought up is, where do you go to college? Where do you go to school? What are you doing after college? Do you have a job? What is your job? Questions like that. It's never about questions like, what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? What do you do on the weekends? And so with hustle culture and everything, jobs, school, taking up so much of our time, I feel like that is just one factor leading to the decline of people having hobbies. I think another big factor leading to the decline of hobbies is that everyone now wants to have a hobby that is monetized. So people are seeing every interest, every hobby as an opportunity to make money versus having a hobby or something that you like to do just for the sake of liking to do that thing. I feel like people are losing hobbies because now there's some kind of mentality about every hobby needs to be monetized, every hobby has to be a side hustle, sort of similar to hustle culture. Like, if you have a hobby that you're putting your time into but you're not making money from it, then what is the point of that hobby? That's sort of the mentality nowadays. And so, like I said, everyone has a lot of things on their plate with work, school, caring for other people, life in general, that free time is a rarity. So if you do have free time to pursue a hobby, people are saying and thinking like, oh, it's not worth it to pursue that hobby unless you're making money from it. So, you know, there is no problem with having hobbies and monetizing those hobbies. I think the problem arises with the mentality that people are saying there is no point to have this hobby unless you're making money from it. So it's sort of like, why can't someone do something just because they like to do it for the sake of doing that thing in their free time? That is frowned upon. And so I would definitely say that one of my hobbies is making YouTube videos. And so yes, I am monetized on YouTube now, but I didn't go into starting YouTube videos, making YouTube videos with the end goal of making money off of the internet. And you know, with making YouTube videos, I wasn't even monetized for the first 2 years that I was making videos. I would also say that the Survivor podcast that my friend and I host is another one of my hobbies. We've been doing it since junior year of high school, talking about Survivor and other TV shows, literally for the past like 7 years, and we don't make any money from our Survivor podcast, but we do it because it's genuinely something that we both love doing. And so with my hobbies, making YouTube videos, with the Survivor podcast, every time I tell someone about those, the first question that I always get is, oh, are you making money from it? It's never like, oh, how did you get into that hobby? Why do you do that hobby? The first question about any hobby is always money. Where I'm also at fault for that though too. For instance, when someone told me that they write blogs for Medium, my first question also was, oh, do you make money from it? And so maybe that idea is ingrained in us now, where you hear someone has a unique hobby and you ask them first, do you make money off of it? Which is really sad because sometimes it does feel like people look down on you because you have some hobby that isn't making any money, and so they like feel bad for you, and then people go on to say, oh, here are some ideas of how you can monetize your hobby and how you can make money from this hobby. Which I'm sure if your end goal was to monetize your hobbies, you would have already found a way to do that. But it's like people I see on Instagram, as a hobby they make earrings, and then you always see other people commenting like, oh, you should make an Instagram business, you should make an Etsy shop. If someone wanted to do that, they wanted to sell their earrings or crochet or knitting, they could do that. But it always seems like the conversation around what hobbies you have is monetize those hobbies, how can you make money from these hobbies? And so it sort of feels like you can't really have a hobby just for the sake of having something that you enjoy, but everyone is always looking to the end result of making money. How can you become successful from this hobby? And so finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about not tying your passions to your career. So it seems like the people who do have hobbies that don't want to monetize their hobbies, they're fine with just doing their hobbies for fun, they don't need to make any money from it. They do that because they don't want their hobby to become their full-time job, because that will take away from their enjoyment of the hobby. Because once you start tying your hobby, something you do for fun, leisure time, casually, into something that you have to do in order to pay your bills, make rent, make money, then I feel like something changes, and then it maybe feels less fun because now you need to do something in order to obtain that end result. Which for a lot of people that I've seen, if they have turned their hobby into their full-time job or into a side career, side hustle, something like that, they end up starting to hate that hobby because now they're forced to do it. So sort of like the monetization of their hobby sort of took away from their enjoyment of that hobby. And I don't know, it's like an interesting cycle, because say you dislike your 9-to-5 job, so you start to create a side hustle, a side business. You're turning your hobby into a side business that starts to make a lot of money. Then now your hobby becomes your full-time job, but then you start to dislike your hobby, and then it just becomes a cycle of disliking your job, the hobby that you're doing, which turns into a job, disliking that, and then it just never ends. So yeah, this was just a topic that I've been thinking about recently. Definitely let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts on this, any personal experiences with hobbies, monetizing hobbies, having that conversation with friends. I am definitely super intrigued and want to know your thoughts. So if you liked this video, definitely give it a thumbs up to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.